Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of Right Left, where we talk about fountain pens and stationery and inks and all sorts of yummy things from a left-handed perspective. It doesn't all mean the same things for a right-handed person, but every now and then things do make a difference when you're left-handed in the fountain pen world. Although, if you've watched my video on the left-handed version of the Lamy Safari, I've been using it for a while now, and I really don't see a difference. So, yeah, I don't know about the specifically engineered left-handed pens. They don't seem to really make a difference for me. But today I wanted to talk about something a little bit different, and I wanted to talk about the feel of a nib. And for a long time, these were my favorite pens to write with, and the Pelikan, and it's still my favorite pen to draw with for sure. But for long extended writing sessions, I have found a new favorite, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But what I love, let me just start with the Pelikans. You've probably seen you may have seen my videos on these. Pelikan pens are, a delight to write with and draw with. This is my first really nice fountain pen I ever purchased. And I have to tilt my paper because I'm left-handed. So this is a Pelikan M100. And it is actually the smallest body, I think, of the finer Pelikans. And it has a stainless steel nib that's gold plated. It's not an actual gold nib. But the nib on this pen, and this is a fine, okay? And notice how juicy this is. That ink is still wet. This is MD paper, Midori paper. Not cotton, no, this is MD cotton, sorry. So that ink is still wet. It's really juicy. And that is a little bit of a problem for a left-handed person when you're doing extended writing sessions, which I do. So I have to be mindful of the ink drying. And when you're writing and you're in flow with writing, you don't necessarily want to think about things like that, right? But it's still delightful. However, to draw with this pen is a dream. So it can go from really fine lines to actually pretty thick lines. Okay, and this is a stainless steel nib, so that's pretty remarkable. A lot of times it's the gold nibs that are so flexible like that. So this pen is a dream to draw with, all right? And that's mainly what I use it for. I used to use it a lot for writing until recently. This is my other M100, and it's the same thing. I mean, this is a very light ink, by the way, so I don't know if you can see it or not, but I love this ink on MD notebooks because it sort of matches the color of the dots on the grid. But it's the same thing. I can go from really fine to really thick, and it's yummy, right? But I actually do write letters with this pen. So those are Pelikan nibs, and that's a fine. Okay, so I should write that down. These are fine nibs, all right? They also come in extra fine, but the extra fine are not that pliable. The mediums are much even wetter than this. They're too wet for me. I would be smearing ink constantly. So enter a pen that I got a while ago. This is an inexpensive pen. It's a Sailor Compass 1911. Sailor pens are Japanese, so Pelikan pens are German, Sailor pens are Japanese. And they use proprietary ink cartridges or converters. So what that means is when I use this pen, I have to use a Sailor cartridge. That's fine by me because their inks are my favorite. They're so gorgeous. So you'll see that in a minute when I write with it. This is actually a medium fine. So in theory, it's a heftier nib than the Pelikan fine. Let me just back up a minute. The Pelikan is a piston filler. So I stick the nib into the ink and I pull it and it fills into this chamber here. So there are no cartridges ever. You can't use them. It wouldn't work, which is really convenient. But you are stuck with bottled ink, which is fine for being home, but when you're on the road traveling, it's a bit of a pain. So these are not pens that I would travel with. This, however, I could travel with because I can take the cartridge out or the converter out and travel with it without it, and then just pop it in when I get to where I'm going. So these are great pens to travel with. So I really I got this pen because of the color and because I'd never seen a Sailor pen before. It was only available in a medium fine nib, and I thought, you know, that's probably going to be too thick for me. It's going to be too wet. I'm going to smear it, but what the heck, I'll try it. I bought the ink. It's called, I don't remember what it's called, but it's the lighter of the two greens. They come in packs of 3. And I also have a converter with this that I've used with other inks as well. So if you use the converter, you can use any ink you want, but if you use the cartridges, you have to use Sailor inks. So this is the Sailor Compass. I think it's 1911 or something, or 1918, something like that. And it is medium fine. Now, take a look at how much finer this nib is. It is a really fine point. You can just see it. You can just see it next to the Pelikan. The difference in the point, right? So along the lines, I learned the Japanese nibs are typically much finer anyways. They're just engineered to be much finer. So I was surprised. But the thing I was most surprised about is how much I loved the way this nib feels on the paper. So I don't know if you can hear it or not. It feels like I'm writing with a pencil, which is my favorite feeling in the world, to write with a hard pencil. I'm not a soft pencil writer, I'm a hard pencil writer. I like the tactile sensation of the lead crossing the paper, touching the paper, marking the paper. I love the sound of it. I love really sharp nibs to draw with because I love that sound, but my very favorite feeling is pencil on paper. So pens typically do not mimic that, right? They flow, they're juicy, they're different. When I write with this one, it's just so smooth. It feels like butter under, and it does not, it feels like a fountain pen, right? It's really juicy. Also, let me show you this. So that's just after writing with that. Hardly at all, right? A little bit, but nothing like that. So that's another bonus for this left-hander. But you guys, it just feels so nice. So what I learned when I started researching it is that Sailor pens are famous for the tooth they have. Like they have you can feel the contact with the paper. It's a very tactile experience. The paper, you feel the paper when you're writing, right? It's just a different experience. Some people really love the buttery smooth feeling. Some people love the tactile feeling. I love the tactile feeling for writing, not necessarily for drawing, right? I can't imagine a better pen than this for drawing. It's just fabulous. But for writing extended, this is a dream. It is so nice. And it's just enough ink coming out where you get some of the shading, especially if you're doing printing, which I do a lot. So I get a little bit of shading with this, all right? But it's dry enough that it's not going to smear like crazy like my Pelikan does. And really, by the time I'm through with the sentence and moving down a bigger page, it dries really quickly. So this is the Sailor 1911 with the medium fine nib. I love this pen. It was the pen that I was reaching for the most to do my writing. Okay. Now, every time I have an art exhibit, it's been my tradition to get a new fountain pen. And it's sort of like my gift to myself for finishing and completing that cycle. And I just had one. I have some of my other ones here. The last one, the last show, I got, where is she? The Stipula Adagio, which is a gorgeous, gorgeous pen. And it has a stub nib, which I really love. I don't keep this inked because it is not a good starter. The ink dries really quickly in the nib for some reason. I just don't think the cap is a good seal, but I ink it up when I want to use it. It is a stunning pen, and it's also a piston converter, so it's super, super easy to ink. So that was my last show 2 years ago. This time, I got a Sailor Pro Gear Slim. This one, when I saw, and I was thinking about another one. I think it's called Spring Rain or something like that. It's very similar to this, but it's got a violet colored top. But this one is the special edition from Yoseka Stationery. And it's just the Yoseka stationery. But look at model. But look at with the silver trim. Look at that beautiful color. It's like my color, peachy pink and soft celadon. It's like I couldn't. When I saw this, I was like, "That's the one." I knew it. And I was a little bit hesitant because it's a gold nib, so that means it gets pricier, but it's the first gold nib I've ever had. And it's plated with iridium, so it's 14 karat gold, I believe, or no, this one, these are maybe 22. But I just decided, it's just, to me, it's the most beautiful pen I have now. It's a resin body. This has the most beautiful, subtle, snowy sparkles in it that you can't see unless you're really in the light. It comes with a converter and ink. I inked it up with a perfect color. I'll show you that ink. It is the Yoseka Ceramics line in Tang Mise Blue, which is stunning. Looks like this in the bottle. And actually, I did a sample of it on here yesterday. In my journal. There it is. Beautiful. So this is a small profile pen like the Pelikan, which is perfect for my hand. In fact, let me post them so you can see the difference. Pelikan, that's almost exactly the same, right? Small. I have small hands, so it's perfect for me. Short hands, I should say, not necessarily small. So posted, it's perfect, right? And it's even more delicious Can you hear that? So it's like smooth, gorgeous writing, effortless writing, but it feels like a pencil. It scratches the paper like a pencil, but it's not really scratching the paper. Can't explain it any other way, but it is absolutely my very favorite to write with now. Another one that I really like, I like my Coecos. I really like writing with these too. And when you post these are also great to travel with. They're smaller. So if I write for sometimes a couple hours a day, it's a little bit trickier to write for that long because of the difference in size. I mean, even the nib's quite a bit smaller, but even this little bit of difference, after a while, it's really light in my hand. I love the way it feels, but for really, really long sessions, I like a little bit more of a pen for that. This one is absolutely perfect. It is delightful, and it's beautiful. With just fast flowing cursive, and it's beautiful for printing. And again, this is the medium fine, which seems to be my preferred sailor nib. So it gives me a little bit of shading, but not too wet. And this one dries very quickly. Isn't that ink a pretty match for this pen? It's beautiful. So, is that something you've ever really thought about, how you like your nibs to feel? Now, the Coeco, which I think is it's also a firmer nib. It doesn't have the same tactile feeling that the Sailor has. It still rolls across the paper in a different way. There's such a clear difference between this and this. And the other pen that it's feedback, they call it. That's the word they use, feedback. But the one that that I've been wanting to try is the Pilot Custom 823. And all the people I know that have reviewed that pen talk about how it's like when they put that nib to the paper, it's the most incredible feeling nib they've ever used. It's not a terribly expensive pen, but it's just an incredibly wonderful nib. It's not a very attractive pen either, so that's another reason why I've hesitated, because I don't know, I like things to appeal to me in that way too, so why not have the best of both, right? But I think what's going to happen with that Pilot, I think it's going to be more like a Pelikan. I think it's going to be that smoothness, you know, without that huge variation in line weight, which is why I love the Pelikan. So this is my writing pen. I think I found it, and now I want to know everything about Sailor pens. This is also a either a Sailor cartridge or their converter with any ink, right? It comes with a converter and it comes with 2 cartridges. Fine with me. I'll use the converter, or I'll use their gorgeous cartridges. But it is proprietary, so you can't use international cartridges. Let me show you the difference, because so like this is an international. These are one of my favorites, the Graphon Pastelle in Stone Gray. So this is a short international cartridge, which fits so many different pens, but you can see the difference in the top of the Sailor. It's straight, right? And their converter is also straight. Another one that's proprietary is Lamy. So if you buy Lamy pens, you have to use either their converter or their cartridges. And they do that for various reasons, but you can see the difference here. Theirs is much thicker, see? But it's different than this, all right? So it's really important that you consider that when you buy proprietary pens. If your very favorite ink is in an international cartridge, you're not going to want to buy a proprietary pen. But with Sailor, that's really not an issue, because their inks and their cartridges are amazing. These are the Shikiori inks, and they're really gorgeous. In fact, it's the same color. So they also make the Shikiori markers. I have the same color, and it is called Wakao Guisu. And it's the same color. Their colors go across between their inks. My other favorite sailor color for every day is this one. It is called Rikyucha. It's called seaweed indigo in English, and it's this dark seaweedy green that's also really beautiful. So I like sailor inks. They're one of my very favorites. Very favorites. So yeah, that's what I have for you today. The feel of a nib on paper matters, right? It matters. Matters to someone like me. I'm a total writing geek. I mean, fountain pen, everything geek, stationery geek. Those things matter to me. For some people, it might not matter, but wow, what a difference between these two. Drawing pen, writing pen, both exquisite to write with or draw with, but those are my preferences. I just thought it was interesting. I was taken by surprise. I really was, and it started here. So if you want to get a good feel for a sailor pen and a sailor nib, this is a great place to start, the Sailor Compass. But this is a whole nother feeling, a whole nother level. It's gorgeous. I'm so in love with it. All right, everyone, that's it for today. I hope this was fun, and I'll see you soon with more. Take care. Bye-bye.